I was 3 days out of Elkhorn Junction when the birds stopped singing. Up there in the timberline haze, past where the pine gives way to spruce and the spruce to shadow, something was wrong. My horse caught it first, ears twitching, snort, sharp like flint striking steel. I dismounted, boots sinking into damp moss that hadn't seen the sun in days. Fog clung low like it had something to hide. I wasn't here for fairy tales. I had a notice folded in my saddlebag, sealed by the county judge. $100 for proof of the beast harassing livestock near Slate Ridge. Description? Unknown. Approach with arms. That beast had clawed up 3 goats and a mule, if you believe the rancher's girl. No prints matched cougar or bear. The deputy said the tracks vanished mid-stride, like the ground itself swallowed them. I followed the ridge west till I found something I couldn't laugh off. In a muddy patch near a crumbled trapper's cabin, there lay a set of prints, long, wide, clawed, but too straight, too deliberate. Whatever made 'em walked on 2 legs, and heavy, judging by the depth. I crouched, ran a finger along one deep heel mark. Not fresh, not old either. I tightened my grip on the Henry rifle. Some folks get jumpy in silence. Me? I get calm. Always have. Calm's how I survived Andersonville, how I run fence for 4 years without losing a hand, how I got out of that woman's bed in Tulsa before her husband rode home early. Something moved in the brush, fast, just a blur, gone before the sound reached my ears. I didn't flinch, just exhaled slow and started forward, eyes narrowed, steps silent. I followed nothing, trusting the hair on my neck more than my eyes. Whatever it was watching me, testing me. Good, let it try. I reached a clearing shaped like a spoon, long and narrow, bordered by elder pine. Picked my spot and set the trap. Bait was a bit of salted jerky and a dash of gun oil. Tricks I learned from an old scout near Fort Kearney who swore beasts hated the smell of man's iron. Night dropped fast, as it always does when you're waiting on something wicked. Sometime past midnight, I heard the click, not of a paw, but a boot. I rose slow, rifle raised, eyes on the trap. The brush parted, and what stepped through wasn't beast nor spirit, just a silhouette, human-sized, still as stone. But no man ever moved that quiet, and no woman ever looked that wild. She didn't flinch when I raised the rifle. Moonlight caught the edge of her cheek, streaked with dirt and pine needles, eyes sharp as broken glass. She wore what looked like a patchwork of fur and canvas. No shoes, no pack, just a small knife strapped to her thigh and a stare like she'd seen through 100 men before me. "Drop it," I said. She didn't move. Instead, she said, "Shoot me and you'll never find it." Voice like wind through trees, quiet but sure. I lowered the rifle a finger's width. Find what? She stepped into the clearing, slow and deliberate, like it was her land and I was trespassing. "Gold," she said, "enough to make men kings, enough to bury 'em, too." I barked a laugh, sharp, short. "You out here trading ghost stories?" "No," she said. "I'm guarding something." I didn't like that word. Garden. Too confident. Too ritual. I kept my eyes on her hands. You live out here? For now. You the one left those prints? She tilted her head. You think I weigh 300 pounds? Fair point. Still, she didn't seem scared of what had left 'em. I motioned with the barrel. Sit. Talk. She did. Cross-legged like a kid, but her eyes stayed watchful. I stayed standing. You got a name? I asked. Rhea. Rhea what? She looked up at me like the question bored her. Just Rhea. You? Lane. Lane Calder. She nodded, like that meant something. You were Army. I stiffened. How'd you keep your canteen on your left, chew tobacco but don't spit often. Boots say cavalry. Your fingers twitch when you hear silence. Not much of it left in you. I said nothing. Couldn't. Felt like she peeled me open in seconds. You hunting that thing? She asked. I'm hunting a bounty. She smiled without humor. Then you're hunting a lie. I frowned. So what's the truth? She pointed toward the trees. Outlaws came here 15 years ago. They buried a fortune so big it cursed the ground. Men died fighting over it. The last one made me promise I'd keep it safe. Lover? I asked. She didn't blink. He thought he was. I lowered the rifle all the way. There was something wild in her, sure, but not crazy. She spoke too clearly, too steady. What if I don't believe you? She leaned forward. Then leave. But that thing in the trees, it's not hunting cattle, it's hunting greed. That made me pause. I'd known greed, worn it like a coat, lost brothers to it, watched it ruin decent men in card rooms and mining camps from Abilene to Prescott. Still, I was here, wasn't I? Say I believe you, I said. Then what? She stood slowly, brushing leaves from her legs. Then we find it together. I stared at her, long and hard. She met my gaze without a flicker. Why me? I asked. Because you walk like a man with nothing left to lose. I nodded once. All right, lead on, Rhea. She turned into the fog, and I followed. We made camp just below a granite bluff that caught the morning sun like a mirror. Rhea moved like a wolf, low and quiet, gathering twigs with purpose, stacking them just so. She didn't ask for help, didn't speak unless she had to. By dusk, we had a fire no wider than a dinner plate. She curled close to it like she'd been cold for months. I sat opposite, back against a stump, whetting my knife more out of habit than need. Silence stretched between us, not awkward, not tense, just still. She ate like someone who hadn't trusted a meal in days. Dried meat, hard biscuits from my saddlebag. I watched her chew, slow at first, then hungry. Still, she never looked away. You said you were with those outlaws? She swallowed. Rode with them for a while, not by choice. Was it your map? She shook her head. No, but I saw it enough to remember. Knew the marks, landmarks carved into my bones. Why'd they let you live? She looked into the fire. I was the one who wouldn't kill for it. I didn't ask more. I could read between the lines. She'd been close to him, one in particular, no doubt. And when the time came, she turned away. Do you believe in curses? She asked. No. She half smiled. Good. Then maybe we'll live long enough to get rich. I'm not here to get rich, I said.
She looked at me like I was lying. Maybe I was. "What are you here for, Lane Calder?" I thought about the quiet in my cabin, the half-built corral, the ledger with numbers I never could make right. I thought about the nights I'd lay awake wondering if I'd be better off letting the wolves take me. "I wanted to know if the stories were true," I said. She nodded. "They are." The fire popped between us. She leaned forward, pulled a stick from the flames, drew a shape in the dirt, a triangle pointing toward a jagged line. "That's the ridge, just west of where you found those prints. There's a wolf-shaped rock. Beneath it, the box." "That easy?" She said nothing easy about it. The men who buried it tore each other to ribbons. The last one, Asher, he begged me to keep others away, said the forest would claim anyone else who tried. "And you?" I asked. "I know the way." We sat a while longer. She didn't blink much. I respected that. She didn't talk in riddles or beg for trust. She earned it, inch by inch, same way a man earns his keep. "All right," I said. "We go tomorrow. We split it clean, but no tricks." She reached out her hand. "If one betrays the other, the forest gets us both." I shook it. Later that night, something stirred me from sleep. Fire was out, stars gone, just the hush of needles falling. I looked to her bedroll. Empty. A breath, low, wet, guttural, rattled from the trees. And I wasn't sure if it was beast or woman.
I rose slow, quiet, rifle in hand. The breath I'd heard was gone now, replaced by that awful hush. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that comes before a flood or a stampede, like the woods were holding their breath. I followed the faintest trail through the undergrowth, boot falls soft. Rhea's track was barely there, just the shift of moss and a snapped fern now and then. She didn't want to be followed, but she didn't exactly cover her tracks either. I found her maybe 50 yards from camp, down in a gully thick with rotted logs and the smell of wet iron. She was kneeling beside a stump, whispering, not to herself, not like a prayer, more like to the stump. The bark around it had been peeled back, scratched with odd marks, triangles, half circles, lines curved like antlers. I'd seen carvings like that once, north of Cheyenne, near where the old ones buried their dead. "Rhea," I said low. She turned, wild-eyed. For a second I thought she might run or draw that little knife. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "It watches when I speak." "What watches?" She rose, fast and angry. "You think I'm crazy?" I shook my head. "I think you've been alone too long." She stepped close, closer than comfort, and jabbed a finger toward the trees. "You think those marks you followed just faded? They moved, Lane. That thing out here, it don't care if you're kind or cruel. It only cares if you take." I looked around. Trees all stood still. But I noticed something that sent a chill through me. The moss where we'd come in, disturbed, dark, compressed, was gone, like the ground had healed behind us. I forced a breath. "You still know the way to the rock?" She nodded, reluctant. "Then we move. First light." I'll let us back to camp, marking trees now with notches from a belt knife, clean, high slashes, something a man could follow if he needed to. I told myself it was to stay sharp, to keep bearings. Truth was, I wanted proof we existed out here. We traveled for hours come morning. Quiet, heads down. The forest thickened till the light barely cut through. Every squirrel, every groan of a tree branch sounded like breath. I kept the rifle ready, eyes darting. Late in the day, we came over a ridge, and there it was. A rock formation shaped just like a howling wolf, maw open toward the clouds. The wind caught there, made a low whine like something mourning. Rhea stopped and stared like she was seeing a grave. "It's beneath us," she said. She didn't smile, didn't gloat, just said it like a sentence.
We dug in shifts. The ground fought us the whole way. Roots twisted like knotted veins, stone packed in layers, dirt damp and black as coal. I was sweating through my shirt by the time my spade hit something solid. "Here," I grunted. Rhea knelt beside me, brushing away the dirt with her fingers, tender as if uncovering a child. It was a box, iron, rusted through, chained in place, and wrapped in what looked like an old cavalry coat. The buttons still held. One had a dent the size of a bullet. It took both of us to wrench the box free. The chain snapped with a groan that echoed too long. Inside, gold, silver, coins from the Mexican Mint, U.S. dollars stamped 1860-something, a pair of thick silver bars, some loose gems, a ring, too, simple and worn, like it had been pulled off a dead man's hand. Blood had dried in the corners of the box, a dark stain along the bottom, too old to smell, but fresh enough to know it had ended someone. Rhea didn't reach for the gold. She stared at it like it was a wound reopened. She started listing them. Asher, Boone, Dell, Mason, Finch. Her voice shook by the end. I didn't repeat the names, but I felt them settle over me like dust on skin. I'd seen what greed did. Hell, I'd been part of it. I started pulling coins into 2 saddlebags, even split. "We'd take what we can carry, leave the rest," I said. She still hadn't touched the gold. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out that ring, the one from the box. No, not the same. Similar. Hers was cleaner, smaller. She held it like it burned. This was his, Asher's. He gave it to me after he killed the last man, told me to forget him. She didn't cry, just buried it in the hole beside the now empty box, covered it back with the same dirt we'd dug. I kept it too long. I didn't press. We mounted up, saddlebags heavy, arms sore. I glanced back once before we rode out. The wolf rock was silent, mouth open to the wind. But something shifted in the trees. Not the branches, not the leaves. The marks. All the notches I'd carved, gone. Worse, the trees I'd marked were now bare. No moss, no bark. Just gray, naked wood, like bone.
We didn't speak much on the way down. The forest felt tighter now, like the trees had crept closer when we weren't looking. Light filtered through in slanted beams that didn't warm, didn't move. Every few yards I glanced behind, half expecting to see something following, some blur in the branches, some shape not meant for daylight. We made camp near a dry stream bed. I took first watch, listening for that breath again, the one from before. But all I heard was wind shifting dead leaves and my own heart ticking like a pocket watch with a cracked face. By morning, she was gone. Her bedroll sat folded by the fire. One saddlebag was missing, mine. I stared at the spot for a long time. Not angry, not even surprised, just hollow. Tracks led east, faint, but there. No attempt to hide 'em, just boot prints cutting through damp earth, paced slow. She wasn't running. That part stung the worst. I checked my remaining bag. Half the gold still there. She hadn't taken it all. That made it worse. Part of me wanted to let her go, keep what I had and ride for the border, buy land somewhere quiet, maybe raise colts, maybe rot in peace. But I saddled up anyway. I told myself I just wanted answers, just to look her in the eye and ask what part was real. The pact, the firelight, the ring in the dirt. But truth was, I couldn't stand not knowing if I ever meant a damn thing to her. I rode fast, eyes locked on the trail she left. Her scent lingered in the underbrush, pine and leather and something sharper like wild onion. Hours passed, light faded, and then, just as the tree line thinned, there she was, sitting on a flat stone at the forest's edge, staring down the slope like she'd been waiting. My fingers tightened on the reins. She didn't reach for a knife, didn't even stand. The gold sat in the dirt beside her, untouched. I dismounted, rifle still strapped to my back. I figured you'd run. She looked up at me, eyes calm. I figured you'd follow.
We stood there like that for a while, neither of us speaking. Wind tugged at her hair. A raven circled once overhead, then vanished into the pines. I stepped forward, slow, watching her face for the lie. "You left me half." "I left you the half I didn't need," she said. I studied her, the wear on her boots, the dirt on her palms. She hadn't gone far. She'd only been gone a few hours. "You could have taken all of it." She nodded. "I could have." Silence again. Then she said, "I had to know." "Know what?" She glanced up, almost sheepish, almost not. "If you'd follow me for the gold, or for me." That pulled something in my chest I hadn't felt since before the war. Something raw and unwelcome. I didn't answer, didn't trust my voice. She stood, looked at the saddlebag, then back at me. "You want it back?" I stepped to it, crouched, opened it. Gold still there, glittering in the dust light. Then I reached in and started pulling coins out, one by one, tossing them into the woods. Rhea tensed. "What are you doing?" "Letting the forest have its cut," I said. A few more went sailing into the underbrush. The weight on my back lessened with every toss. I stood, breathing easier than I had in days. "You think this means anything to me?" I said. "I came out here chasing the story. Thought I was after a monster. Then thought I was after gold. Turns out I was just running from myself." Her expression softened. "You were right," I said. "I don't believe in curses, but I believe in places. And this place, it remembers. You leave here dirty, it don't let you forget." She didn't say anything, just watched me like she was memorizing the moment. I looked out at the pines one last time. "Let the forest keep its damned gold, but I'm keeping the story." Her mouth curved. Not a smile exactly, but something near it. "You sure?" she asked. "No, but I'm done chasing ghosts." She picked up her saddlebag, tossed it over her shoulder. "Then let's ride." We didn't look back as we rode out, just left our shadows behind,
long and thin in the setting sun.
Weeks later, I heard our names in a bar I'd never been to, spoken by a man who'd never met us. It was in a town called Dry Hollow, one of those dusty rail stops where the wind cuts through every gap in the boards and the whiskey tastes like regret. I was nursing a tin cup of coffee, hat low, keeping to myself, when two younger fellers slid onto the stools beside me. One wore a gambler's vest, shiny with lies. The other had the twitchy fingers of a man who never kept what he stole. "You hear about the forest witch?" "Which one?" his friend grinned. "The one near Slate Ridge. Folks say she walks with a dead man's gold and a soldier's ghost. Said she vanished with a cowboy who shot spirits." I sipped my coffee. The second man leaned in. "My cousin swears he found a gold coin with a pine carved on it, just sitting on a stump near the edge of the woods." "Pine?" the gambler said. "Swear it. Said the moss around it was black. Said the trees all looked dead." The barkeep, an old man with a scar down his cheek and a stare too steady for a place like this, wiped a glass and said, "Some things in those woods don't want to stay buried." Both men laughed, but not for long. Outside, thunder rumbled, though the sky was clear. The gambler leaned close again. "We could go, just follow the ridge, split anything we find." His friend nodded. "Hell, even if the story ain't true, gold's gold." The barkeep stopped polishing and leaned in. "You boys don't get it. That story? It ain't about gold. It's about what it costs." I left before they noticed me. Mounted up, rode west. Rhea was waiting near the salt flats, a fresh coyote pelt slung over her shoulder, hair tied back, eyes sharp as ever. "Trouble?" she asked. I shook my head. "Just shadows trying to play men." We rode south that day, kept to the edges, changed names again when we passed through trading posts. Sometimes we'd leave a coin under a rock or tucked in a boot print, just enough to keep the legend walking. Maybe they'll come looking. Maybe the forest'll take 'em. But me and Rhea, we ride light, we ride quiet, and we leave no tracks the wind can't cover.